Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an expert from the world of retail and franchising from Greece, Mr. Achilles Lazarou. Achilles, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's really a pleasure to have the discussion and always a pleasure to discuss with people of your background.
Thank you. Achilles is a business developer and a portfolio manager of Coffee Island, which is a coffee outlet chain with 483 outlets in Greece, Cyprus, UK, UAE, Canada, Switzerland, Egypt, and Romania. So, Achilles, my first question. You have a very impressive career trajectory from a physics instructor to a business leader in the coffee industry. What inspired this shift from being a physics instructor to becoming a business leader?
All right. So I love physics. I studied physics when I was young, and I really still love physics. But I reached a point where physics gives you a really good analytical approach for problem solving. But I always had the passion, moving from academia to the open market, and this is two different worlds, right? So at some point when I had finished my first master in physics, I was approached by a startup then of some friends, and I took the opportunity to shift to a different background, and it was really exciting because it was a new topic, and I was really happy to go with passion inside the business opportunities.
Thank you. And what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in your early years at Coffee Island, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a nice question. So, Coffee Island is a coffee chain, and coffee is particularly sensitive to many dimensions. So, what coffee business means to Athens, it's a different story of what coffee means in UK or
Yeah.
Toronto or now in New Delhi. So you have to be cultural intelligent when you're doing coffee business. That's the first thing. Of course, we just were a group of people from Patras and Athens, so there was quite of challenge for scaling the whole business from one city to different cities and then to different countries.
Hmm.
So that was something that we did from the scratch, and I would say that was the main thing that we should had to overcome at that point to
Hmm.
get bigger and then start standardizing
Hmm.
the concept.
Amazing. And as someone who has managed the development of so many stores in so many different countries, what are some of the key lessons that you have learned about scaling a franchise?
I would say I would reply for scaling the franchise and for scaling a co-franchise business.
Hmm.
It's always, for us, what we say, we're more on the people business, not
Hmm.
on the coffee business. So when you're doing business and you're trying to scaling to different countries, it always has to do with the localization of the
Hmm.
brand. So how you penetrate the market in Athens, that's a different project and different scope on
Right.
how you're going to place a new store in the central London.
Hmm.
So there are two things here that we had to always reply. The first thing
Hmm.
was how I localize the brand and how I deliver an experience that is relevant for the local consumer.
Hmm.
Because drinking coffee on the garden is totally different from having a coffee in Cairo. So you need to be cultural intelligent, localizing the brand,
Hmm.
and always deliver an experience, not just a product that is relevant for the local consumer.
Hmm. Amazing. Let's talk a little bit now about Coffee Island. You know, Coffee Island started as a single coffee shop in Patras, Greece, which you said is where you come from, and now has a presence in multiple countries. What, in your view, is the secret of your success?
I get this question often, and I always say there is no any kind of secret. It's
Uh-huh.
always, and I think that is agnostic of the industry. It's always the same answer. I
Mm,
would say first, it's the people behind of any brand, right? So I think that we're a team here that is really passionate with what we do. So sometimes we say it happens to be coffee at that time. So it was a really good, group of people that really loved their topic. So I didn't grow up making coffee, or I wasn't a coffee expert till that time, but I really work, with a passion on making this happen. So first thing is always about the people behind the brand. The second thing I would say is about having a method on how you structure your strategy, and then you deliver the plan. So you have to have a strategy, and then you have a team that is capable of making this happen. So we made a 360 approach in coffee. At this moment, even when we started, from a small city, we dream big. We make our own roastery. We travel to all these farms around the world. We met all these farmers. So we create a system that was capable to support any kind of partner, from the coffee tree inside the farms, to the factory, to the roasting and the training inside the store. So we get to be the experts of coffee. Actually, right now we are members of the board of the Specialty Coffee Association. So we're quite proud to say that we started with a plan. We had a really good strategy about it, and the team was really focused on how can deliver the strategy.
Amazing. But Achilles, the other question I had is that there are so many major brands around the world, as well as you. How do you differentiate Coffee Island from so many other big names around the world, and they're all in your markets as well?
Yeah, coffee industry is really, really competitive, and there are huge players out there, and there are also a lot of no-name independent coffee shops at the moment in any corner that they are still competing with you. I say that in our industry, it's not only about having a good product; it's about creating an experience. And this is not a marketing saying; it's about how you create engagement with your consumer inside the store, and how this kind of interaction turned out to be like something like loyalty, right? So our business is based on loyalty. So it's not the coffee I take. It's not only the coffee I take. It's what connects me to the brand, because in a coffee shop, you get there every day. So there must be something more than a cup of coffee that gets you to get inside. So it's what connects me with the brand, and why it's always answering why I should go again tomorrow to the same store. So it's experience. It's the whole experience, the ritual that you have every day for coffee.
Well said. And what were some of your biggest challenges when you were expanding into international markets like the United Kingdom or Canada or UAE?
First thing, actually any kind of new market is a project from scratch, as I said. I would say first thing is how you make a robust strategy for localizing the brand. That means different dimensions, from the product localization. If you get a coffee in Toronto, it's a different thing from London, because, for example, people in Toronto, they want more dark coffee than the people in London. That's a product localization thing. It's about the way you communicate, the way you structure your floor plan, your layout, and your design in the store. So everything, you keep the brand DNA and the values, that's for sure. But you always have to localize and make your end product in your store relevant to the local consumer. So that means that you need to get a better understanding of the insights of the market and the culture of the market. And being cultural intelligent is not a button that you press. So you need to really understand the way the market works and deliver something that makes sense and gives value for the consumer. So first, I would say it's the how you localize the brand and you deliver a really valuable, personalized customer experience.
Interesting. And, I've often asked this question from so many brands that come out of so many different countries. How do you balance maintaining a strong Greek identity for your brand while you are adapting to different cultures in so many different markets?
Yeah, that's a challenge. That's actually quite a challenge. We always if you see our different stores within different markets, you won't see any of them shouting that we're coming from Greece, right? But the specific touch, with the store, that you can understand that there are some origins from Greece, right? So the main way we do that is that below the line, you can understand from specific products inside any kind of market, that there's a connection with the Greek market, and there's a storytelling that is not that loud, but still someone can get a kind of experience of a brand that's coming from Greece. So we're an international brand at this moment, but we're an international brand coming from Greece, and there is a quite of smooth way to understand where this brand is coming from.
Amazing. And how do you ensure that the brand stays relevant in an ever-changing retail and coffee industry?
Yeah, believe me, that's the question we do every day to ourselves. Because the market's so fast, the consumer is really changing, and is more demanding, and the coffee industry is facing a lot of challenges right now. So I would say that for starters, you should doubt everything, and start discovering yourself from the start, and be sure that whatever today works good, maybe tomorrow is a different story. So we're trying to keep update with all the new trends, and make our store relevant to all these consumers that are really changing, and they're different generation with our consumers. Coffee is for everybody, right? From the younger ones to the older ones. So you need to stay relevant to all these aging groups and all the different patterns and trends that right now that are coming to the market. So I think you should always, as a team, have already our people that are on the field. We have the innovation committee that is trying to implement, all this what we call bottom-up innovation, all these kind of new trends inside our moderators of the brand, and get it to products. So this is I would say this is an iterative process. So you always get inside all these cycles and try to adapt, change, and try to stay relevant. But that's a challenge, I would say, for everybody, not just Coffee Island.
That's it. And how does Coffee Island's franchise model differ from so many other coffee chains? How are you different?
Yeah, I would say that the way we differ is that we structure a model that is a 360 approach on the coffee industry. So from our own farms to our own roasting facilities to our own coffee campus, we have a campus that everybody gets specific training before coming there, and then to the end result of the consumer and the business model we have. So we have implement, different unique selling points, inside our store, and products that we create. We have different factories from coffee roasters, and then we have our own dry mixed beverages factory from milkshake, chocolates, and any kind of powder we create. Yeah. So we adapt our products, and we create different, ways of consuming inside our store, so as to differentiate ourselves from the local or global competition.
Amazing. Achilles, my next question is that the coffee to go model has become increasingly popular. How has Coffee Island adapted to this trend?
Coffee Island, we grew up and as a brand, and we get big in Greece from takeaway. Actually, when we started back in 1999 in Greece, people, they didn't used to have takeaway coffee back then. So we were the first coffee chain in Greece that integrated this kind of consuming model.
Wow.
And that was really a new thing in the market, and it gave us the opportunity to grow. So I would say it is part of our DNA. The takeaway business, we're more a takeaway coffee franchise chain rather than dine-in. We have different kind of stores and models, but takeaway is how we started. So it's part of our DNA, and we're quite comfortable with that.
And the other thing that I've always observed about coffee shops is that the customer experience is what drives repeat purchase. Now, you are in multiple markets. How do you ensure consistent customer experience across so many stores in so many different countries?
Exactly. That's always, the challenge when you're penetrating a new market. And sometimes that's also we get a lot of, insights and value from our local partners, right? So we have strong partners in different markets that they have a really solid business background in the market. And, we deliver the model, and we work with them in workshops and with consumers from the markets to understand what are the points in our business model that they need fine tuning. So it's not easy just to understand, within a workshop, a whole market. And that's something that is still an ongoing process. But this is where we get different support from each market, from agencies, and of course the local partner, and we make any kind of adjustments in the brand and in the way of delivering the store and the product. And it's always, I would say, it's the success factor on how you can get inside to markets. Just give you an example, we have a store in Cairo, and we have a store in Covent Garden, and we have a store in New Delhi. The way the consumers consume in these markets, it's quite different. So you need to be relevant to these consumers, and at the same time keep the brand DNA and values, inside the stores. So it's something that it takes time, and you always, in touch with each team in each market to be sure that you're delivering. And it's not a one-off job, right? It's you did it, you get feedback, then again you get back, you adjust, and that's the whole cycle again and again.
Great response. And Achilles, what role does technology play first in enhancing customer experience, but also in just running your stores and bringing better and better coffee or coffee beans?
I think as everywhere right now, it's the main thing right now, right? So people they love to interact with screens, and they trying to to get what we call experience, meaning continue to have the same experience of the store inside their home. So I want to have the same way of my experience when I'm in my home and I'm just making an order with the app of the brand. And this is the interface for the consumer. But at the same time, there are so many things we're trying to implement inside our business model, from AI technology for the operation part, and trying to make the whole business model easier for everybody, any kind of stakeholders, from our partners, our operational managers, and to the barista. So technology is a must-have right now. It's not a beautiful story that we hear. It's a must-have on all these kind of dimensions. So consumer needs it. For them right now, it's a hygiene factor. They expect to have it. And at the same time, we're trying to make our business model even more effective, with all these kind of technologies on the operational part.
And you've been in this business for almost 3 decades, from the mid-90s, you said. How has consumer preferences changed about coffee since you started?
That's changed, radically. In coffee industry, we say there are five waves of development, right? From the typical traditional one that you had in some countries, I would say the boiled coffee and stuff that we have in our home, and then moving from the more traditional ways to the third wave of just standard coffees in mass commodity chains. And we see, I would say from 2005, 2008, we see that people, they start talking about coffee. They start talking about the farms and the technical part of coffee. And we had more coffee connoisseurs. That was, the artisan scene that was starting to appear back then. What the fourth wave of coffee. And right now, we're in the fifth wave of coffee, which is the science of coffee. Now you will see that there are systems or brands that working end to end, with coffee, and they're really focusing on all details. For us, for example, in Coffee Island, we have a specific team just working for the water that was going to get inside the store, because it's 99% of the coffee, right? Drink. So I would say right now, for the big brands and the people that are experts in the coffee industry, coffee science, and that's a different story from what you used to have as a coffee in the last 20 years.
Very interesting. So, Achilles, I have time for 2 more questions.
All right.
Sustainability is a key part of Coffee Island's growth strategy. How do you ensure sustainable sourcing of coffee beans?
Yeah, sustainability is a whole system, right? Actually, I'm really proud to say that we are the first coffee chain in Greece to have an official ESG report. And that's not only about coffee sourcing, which is really a major part of the report, but it's about people, product, and planet. Right? So we have direct, relationships with the coffee farmers. We have green department, as we say, that visits quite often any kind of farms, and we support initiatives.
Right.
If someone just can go inside our site right now, they will see two initiatives that we're running right now. So, for example, we support local farms on construction development or like water wells, and at the same time we have a specific coffee that we support right now for the women of Rwanda, that they're trying to make an initiative and get out and be part of the coffee of the coffee community. But it's not only about that. At this moment, we're trying to also work intensively on the upcycling part. So we make a spin-off right now where we take all the coffee waste, the one that you get from the stores after you have your coffee. There's a coffee cake, what we say, the coffee waste. So we collect all this from our stores. We get it in the new production facility that we made, and we take this waste and we make cosmetics. So right now, if you see in our stores, you can have your lip balm, hand cream, sun cream that is made from
amazing.
Coffee.
Oh, amazing.
And at the same time, we also made, packaging that is made from all this kind of material. So it's about having a complete, way of approaching, not just only, the coffee sourcing or any kind of initiative. It has to be part of your DNA. Yeah. And I'm really proud about that, and I'm really happy to get you this report. If you can just visit our site, you can see all of these initiatives we support.
Wonderful. And I'm sure my viewers and listeners, some of them could even go and check out this report on your site. And my last question for you, Achilles, if you had to name one key factor that determines the success of a coffee shop, what would it be?
Yeah, that's an easy one. It's always the people. You will see that the people serving the coffee, it's what makes people come again. It's the everyday coffee is a ritual for the most of the people. So, and they really want this kind of time they invest in this morning to make it worth it, right? So the way I'm treated inside the coffee shop, most of the times, it matters more than the product. So people, they buy the experience. So that's why I said we are more of the people business. So you have a setup that cares about your customer experience in a way that's not a commodity. People, they will appreciate it and they will come again. If you have a good product, that's something that will make them go there every day. But it's more on the experience side rather than the product.
Yeah, well said. And on that note, and your last amazing conversation, your point, people who serve the coffee, or the baristas, are probably the most important factor that ensures repeat purchase. Thank you, Achilles, for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for speaking to me at such length about Coffee Island and everything that you're doing, which is so unique in so many different countries. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.